I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know about you, Wayne, but I've been live the whole time. I'm not AI like you, you know, I'm not like that AI king, you know?
Yeah.
Aussie
Anyway,
AI.
Greg,
Okay.
Jan's got my
Yeah, you know,
email
I don't
address.
know about you, Wayne, but I've been live the whole
All
time.
right.
The power failure, the power just before we went on the air, you kind of screwed things up for me, but everything is back to normal, I hope.
Well, the big question, Wayne, is whether Jan will remember to send me that email address. So
What email address?
I'll send
Wayne
you
Sims.
Yeah, I'll send it
I
to you.
ain't sending
All right,
Wayne
there
Sims
it is.
email. You know, that's
Okay, I got
private,
it.
personal property, man.
It's
You know,
Wayne yours, not
next thing I know, I'll get an NDA from him. I violated my NDA with him. You know,
It's all
I think
good.
we can have an internal friends with Jan Landy, you know, cloak and dagger section of our show.
well, you know, as I get closer and closer to retirement, and I am getting closer and closer, I've been thinking about what I want to do, you know, and I love this podcasting stuff. You know, I guess I'm not ready for a new career because I want to do traveling, but I might just travel with Jan Landy. Speak with Jan Landy, friends of Jan Landy in the nude. I don't know, whatever it might be.
Well, like strike the last one.
Yeah.
I'm sure that'll be only two people to watch, me and my wife, and that's it. And I don't even know if she'll watch, you know, so come to think of it, I don't even know if I'd watch that, you know.
Let me know if you want to go to Bhutan. I'll hook you up.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And he's not trying to get rid of me either. He has friends in Bhutan. Bhutan's a beautiful, I mean, when he posts those pictures of Bhutan, those pictures are amazingly beautiful. What a beautiful kingdom that is.
Yep. And the people are even better. So.
Wow, that is great. Yeah, it's what's the highlight of the country, would you say? You've been there multiple times.
The people and the beauty and the culture and basically it's life-changing if you go there. That's all I can say. It's a little hard to get to, but well worth it when you go, and you cry when you leave.
Yeah.
So
well, it's nice you still have the ability to cry, you know. It makes you feel like you're alive.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, there's only one emotion that you have to cause from within. In other words, you know, they could torture you to scream, they could torture you to cry, but no one could torture you to laugh. Think about that.
I know we experience it from time to time with one or two of your jokes, Jan.
Yeah, that is not a laughing matter.
Yeah,
that's right. That's wincing. You're wincing me. Okay. But anyway, I'll tell you something else that's not a laughing matter. And just remember, welcome to Thinking Out Loud with Friends. My name is Jan Landy, and thanks for watching us on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. Remember to share the show, give it the like. By the way, that's what AI told me to say when we start the show. It's analyzed the show and says I don't introduce myself, and I don't introduce the panel. So today, if everybody wants to introduce themselves, they can. If not, and I'm not going to stand in your way. But they also say that I need to promote the show a little bit in the beginning, the middle, and the end. I don't know if I'm going to do it in the middle, but I just did it now. So there you go. Last thing I want to say about that is remember, everything you hear today is an opinion. So do your own research. Even with our keynote speaker, Chris Stevens, you know, he's a human being. There's no AI in this show. The only AI is in the invitation. You know, it saves me hours and hours and hours. It's amazing right now what you can do with AI and video editing. I feel sorry for those people that made a career in this because basically you just tell it what you want and AI creates it. It's so impressive, really impressive. Has anybody been using it for video, creating video other than myself? Have you using it for anything? I've got one friend that has named his chat GPT. He talks about it so much. Everything that goes on in his life, he's communicating with chat GPT, that now he just calls it chat. And he'll say to me, well, I had a conversation with chat today. And he treats it as if it's the end all, where all of every bit of information he ever needs. You know, if he's not feeling well, if he wants to, what he wants to eat, it scares me how much he's putting the confidence in chat GPT, you know,
Well, there's a
or any
really
AI.
good South Park episode that details that exact situation. So I would recommend that.
Yeah, I
Did
worry
anyone-
about him.
Did anyone see there was some member of parliament, I don't know where in the world, that stood up and was reading a speech and accidentally read the AI prompt and then read the rest of his speech. So the entire speech had been written by AI.
Yeah, a week doesn't go by when we hear that some lawyer forgot, and he did a court brief, and it included all the AI prompts in his court brief.
Didn't he got sanctioned? They all get sanctioned if they do that, and whatever. But in regards to the AI aspect of it, here's an interesting thing. AI is not confidential. So whatever you say to AI, they can and will use it against you if you end up in a court of law. But let's move on to the court of public opinion right now. And let's introduce our keynote speaker of the week, who's been quiet up till now. I hope the cat doesn't have his tongue. Chris Stevens. No. Now, Chris has spent over 20 years on the road as a front of house engineer for Jason Aldean, Thomas Rhett, Amy Grant, Kelly Clarkson. Oh, you must have some stories. She was the first winner of America's Got Talent. Is that right? I think that's what it is. American Idol. Anyway, along the way, according to his bio, he became an expert in complete audio systems design. He's digging into the digital network, and now he represents Stagetec, and they have a new product called AXIO. And that, well, I'm not going to say anymore, but let's introduce Chris. And Chris, why don't you introduce yourself to everybody, and let's get moving on this.
Great. How's it going, everybody? I'm Chris Stevens. Jan, thank you for the introduction. Thank you for having me. It's good to be here. And like you said, I was touring engineer for a little over 20 years. Toured with a bunch of decks. I spent the majority of my career with Jason Aldean. That was about 15 years. And the last few years, I've been freelance, and then started working with Stagetec a little over 2 years ago. And that's become a full-time thing starting in January. So we have an office in Nashville now, where I'm located. So we are, really making a push into the US market. Stagetec's been around 35 years now, 34 years, and huge amount of market share in Europe, Asia, in the broadcast, and then like high-end theater and symphony halls, opera houses, stuff like that. And we're really making a push in the US. So we have a US headquarters in Nashville now. We have a team here, support here, and trying to bring some of this stuff that has been in Europe and really successful for a long time to the States, and have something local here. And I've been a part of that team, which has been really fun and exciting to kind of, bring a product to market here in the US that we believe in, and is, I think is really powerful and useful for a lot of pro audio applications. So I guess we can start. Does anybody, have any of you guys ever used Stagetec? Anything? You guys familiar with products at all?
Ken Porter did a presentation here. I think it was about a year ago, Jan, maybe more than that. You're muted somehow, Jan. Or your battery.
May 7th on my birthday. See, I've changed my microphone style. You see, I got a microphone here. And anyway, makes it much more difficult for me. But anyway, on our birthday, I can't remember the fellow's name that was there, but you weren't part of it, Chris. It was a guy from Germany.
No, that was Daniel Schindler. So that was right before
That's
I started,
correct.
actually. I started about a month after that, a couple years ago. So, but yeah, it's been great. So, Stagetec's kind of the basic, our first product, and which has been kind of the core of our product lineup for the last 20 years, is the Nexus matrix routing system. So that's a totally card-based modular IO system. So that is kind of a anything in to anything out format conversion, signal distribution routing system. So that could be, those systems could be as small as a single device with a few cards in it, analog in to digital out in a different format. And that system is expandable to up to 63 devices and a total network capacity of 65,535 inputs and outputs.
That's not enough.
So, yeah, well, it wasn't for ESPN. They actually maxed out their system. There are a couple systems installed in large broadcast facilities that are actually full, believe it or not.
Wow.
So, yeah, and like systems like that are in like ESPN's Bristol campus, BBC in London. To our knowledge, the largest audio system on the planet, which is in Mecca in Saudi Arabia. That is a full Stagetec Nexus system. So really large signal distribution applications. And then the other kind of core competency for us is kind of really high-end orchestral and theater applications. So, Stagetec is in the Berlin Philharmonic and the Vienna Philharmonic and the Sydney Opera House. And so a lot of the top orchestral performance venues in the world use Stagetec as well. And so, taking that kind of heritage and lineage of like the highest possible audio quality and then transmitting that into AXIO, which is a totally different product line and a totally different application, is kind of what we're going to talk about today. And I want to give you guys as much information about that as we can. So there's a couple really interesting things about Stagetec, and the one that will probably be the most controversial and might, we can drum up some conversation about this, is that our mic converter has no preamp. So I see some faces, some furrowed brows here, but I'll get into how that works. But the basis of the system is a mic level A to D conversion with no analog gain stage. So that is our true match mic converter. So we are now on version 3 of that in AXIO. And the way that works is it uses multiple A to D converters stacked vertically in the amplitude range to convert at 156 dB of dynamic range in a Nexus system. And then the new AXIO product has 163 decibels of dynamic range on the input. So we're able to convert at mic level, transmit through the entire system at mic level, and then apply digital gain once we're already in the digital domain. Now, there's a couple key advantages of that. One being there is a transparency, a clarity to the sound of the conversion that you don't get with an analog preamp. And I think it's easy to say, okay, well, that's going to lack color. And yes, in that it's not going to sound like a 1073. You're going to get a clarity, a transient response that is really unlike anything that has an analog circuit, simply because of the physics of it. There's no capacitor that has to charge and discharge. You're taking the full voltage of the transducer directly into the A to D conversion without having to go through any analog circuitry. So the other main advantage of that is because we can convert at mic level, we can then split that signal 4 ways and provide discrete outputs or discrete routing for up to 4 splits of that same microphone input with independent gain, high pass filter, polarity controls that can be routed to different consoles. So the system not only functions as an IO device and a matrix router, but it is also a 4-way splitter without having to get into all of the disadvantages of using an analog splitter. And I've got some graphs that I'll show you guys in a little bit where we did some math and can kind of show you what's happening in an analog splitter when we're dividing the voltage, increasing the resistance, and its effects on frequency response. So the true match converter is kind of the basis of all of our products, and the thing that really sets Stagetec apart from the competition in how we can convert, distribute, split, provide separate control for multiple consoles at the same time. So if I can, Jan, can I share my screen here?
Yeah, you could share. One other thing, wouldn't it also
Yeah.
take some delay out of the system as well? So you all of a sudden you're losing some milliseconds, but every millisecond adds up when you're adding effects or defeedback or anything else you're adding to the system. So isn't that a benefit as well?
That's a huge benefit. And one of the main, the other things that we're kind of not that I hadn't really addressed yet is how low latency the system is. So let's see. All right, can you guys see that?
Yep.
All right. So the system is incredibly low latency. So, and when I say incredibly low latency, like an AXIO IO device, analog in to digital out is 13 samples. And we measure all of our latency for all of our products in samples, not in milliseconds. So you're about a quarter of a millisecond through the device. So to our knowledge, these are some of the lowest latency converters and router systems on the planet. So on top of all of these other advantages, like it is an incredibly low latency system. So, but what we're here to talk about today is AXIO, which is our new routing system. So this is kind of the next version of the Nexus platform, but this is a much more user-friendly, plug-and-play, easily configurable system, whereas a Nexus system is more designed to be an installed, fixed configuration. AXIO is you take it out of the box, you plug them all together and go do a show. And it's much simpler to configure and then for the user to operate. So AXIO comes in 3 sizes. There is a 8-in, a 16-in, and a 32-in. 32-in is 32 mic converters, 16 line out, 16 AES. There is an onboard AOIP port that is format selectable. So this is another really unique thing about AXIO, where we are actually, rather than using a Audinate or a Ravenna board from somewhere else to do Ravenna or Dante or different AOIP formats, all of that format conversion and processing is done by our internal FPGA, which means we can change the format of the same port. So we can go into the software and say, I need this device to be Dante today. I need it to be 2110 tomorrow. I need it to be Ravenna next week. And I don't have to use expansion cards or have different devices, use format converters or bridges. That device does all of the formats natively with the onboard hardware.
Now, is that device wide or is that port wide?
There's one set of redundant ports per device, and so each device can be its own format.
Okay.
So
But in other words, you couldn't have one output be one format and one output be another format.
you could, and we're going to get there.
Okay.
So what this and how we would do that is there's 2 different ways. We would either do it on 2 separate devices, that are connected via the loop. So these devices communicate with each other via AXIO loop, which is our proprietary fiber optic control and audio transport protocol. So that is 512 channels at 48K. The throughput latency of the loop, and that is up to 10 devices and up to 20 kilometers of length, is 83 microseconds. So again, to our knowledge, this is the lowest latency audio transport protocol that I'm aware of. So we're talking, that's not device to device. That is all the way around the entire loop, including all 10 devices that can be put on the loop together. That's bidirectional, redundant, all over LC fiber.
Now, Chris,
That
I want
carry-
to add, I want to ask you.
Yeah.
I want to ask a question in regards to this. Where isn't this
absolutely.
manufactured in Germany?
Yes. So we're headquartered in Berlin, and everything is manufactured in Germany.
And what I wanted to add is that I just saw a special about the magnitude of how specific the German manufacturers are and how precise they are. And this would be a great example of German engineering at its finest, it seems.
Absolutely. I can tell you some stories. I was on I'll tell you this. I was on a call with our product manager a month or two ago, as we were, finishing up final specs on this project. And I was asking, like, where are we at on, like, where did we land on the exact spec for the loop latency? And he was like, well, we're still working on it. I don't really have an exact spec. We're still doing measurements. We're still testing. Right now it's at 83 microseconds, but we think we can get it down to 82 and a half. And I thought he was joking. I thought he was doing a bit. And no, they were very serious. Like, we think we can get an extra half a microsecond off of the latency. And I was like, guys, I think we're probably good. We can call it good at 83 microseconds. But yes, these guys are, it's fun to go over there and to always kind of be the dumbest person in the room. There's a lot of very, very, very smart people that work there and are, very good at their jobs. Yes, Dennis.
Chris, is this traveling through Cat5 or is it coax cable?
This is all over LC fiber, so single mode or multi-mode, but it's all fiber optic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Chris.
Yeah. So, yes, sir.
I just jump in for a second. A lot of the people in this room haven't seen me in a long time. Hello, Jan Landy.
Hi, Doug Armstrong. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I just randomly just saw this and wanted to just jump in to support, Chris, your brand. Stagetec, of course, is not known that well to many people, but I might be the only guy in the room that owns 3 Nexuses and multiple Crescendos. And I was one of the first television trucks in America to roll with Crescendos and Nexuses. And unfortunately, the Crescendo didn't take off in Hollywood. I had some ego-driven A1s that needed different brands. And we literally had to take Crescendo out and put in Studer or in a Sports World, a Calrac. But I got to tell you guys, that Stagetec stuff is bulletproof. We never, ever, ever in over 10 years had our Nexus freeze or the console freeze. And the sound quality that comes out of that product, I've had guys like Ed Green tell me it was the best sounding TV console they've ever worked on. I mean, several golden ear people. And even to this day, we still have one of the Crescendos in service. And I had one show, back-to-back shows. One had a Studer, one had a Crescendo, and even the average person could tell the difference in just the dynamic range and the overall sound of it. The Germans are difficult to work with. They're very set in their ways. I'm in a Mercedes-Benz dealership right now dealing with that same bullshit. But I'll tell you that the product is is rock solid, and hats off to coming up with a new platform that in theory would be less expensive and more versatile than Nexus. But that Nexus of ours is bulletproof. That's my 2
Thanks,
cents.
Doug. Thanks for the kind words. That's yeah, and I mean, that's been my experience as well working with these guys. Is it has been, it's unbelievably reliable, and especially in the way that, like, to Doug's point, like the way that a Nexus system works, and the thing that's really interesting about it is that that system, which could be, as big as 65,000 squared, has no CPUs in it. Everything is bare metal programmed onto the hardware. So when he says it's bulletproof because there's essentially nothing to crash. There is no computer. The system uses logic and ICs to manage all of the routing internally without having to use a computer. Now, there's a computer that you control it with, but as far as the routing matrix and control is concerned, it's essentially all solid state. So there's really not anything to crash. And the other thing that's amazing about it is,
I was just saying, you also avoid those random Windows updates that sometimes completely destroy you in the middle of a show.
exactly,
I can't tell you how many times
So
I've had to disable the internet out of a truck because the A1 wanted his wave server or something on the network, and Microsoft did something, of course, right in the middle of the show, as it always does. So anyways, that's sort of why we like the Stagetec line too, of it's different architecture.
Well,
Yeah.
well, Doug, I've got some good news for you and some bad news for you. And here's the good news. The good news is that Chris Stevens knows what he's talking about, and he is now actively marketing into the U.S. market. And I would believe right now that because of where Avid is headed, that Stagetec is positioned perfectly to take over that aspect of the market. So that's the good news. The bad news, Doug, is you're going to have to open your wallet again and buy more of it. That's all there is to it.
Well, be my agent, get me more bookings. We'll gladly buy more gear.
By the way, Doug has a company called Touring Video. I've known Doug forever and ever and ever. I think we were babies together when we started, but Doug is an avant-garde when it comes to video production. He's amazing. And he has some phenomenal touring. It's called Touring Video for a reason,
I've
heard a lot about you, Doug. I'm glad to finally meet you.
Thanks. Oh, they're very good. Yeah, and I've been Berlin. I can vouch for the beer. I don't know if I want to vouch for the gin and tonics. They kind of are a bit more dangerous, but love the countryside, love the factory, love the brand, and I wish you all the luck with it because we've got a lot of, in America, we've got a lot of engineers that are set on certain brands. And as vendors, we sometimes have to cave to it, even if we don't agree.
Yeah, and,
so
and we're working really hard to
maybe
at least get the word out. And this is super helpful in just making everybody aware of what we have to offer and how great these products are.
Well, I mean, if you just get back in the routing business, not have to deal with the surfaces that may give you traction.
Yeah. Well, great.
There's three different flavors of the AXIO, right? There's three different flavors, three different configurations, correct. 32, 16, and 8. Is that right?
That's correct. So this is what that looks like. There is an 8-channel, 1RU version, 16-channel, 2RU, 32-channel, 4RU. Everything is 44.1 to 192K. The 16-channel version has 1 expansion slot. The 32-channel has 2 expansion slots. And like I was talking about a minute ago with the true match converter, so all the mic conversion is our true match mic converter. So that's 164 decibels of dynamic range on the input. So that's how we're able to convert the entire mic level signal to digital and then transmit through the system at that same mic level. And we'll talk about how that gets distributed in a minute. But there is a 1024 squared routing matrix in every device, as well as a 256 by 250, 256 channel bi-directional AOIP input. So that's what I was talking about earlier, where we can change the format of the onboard AOIP to all these different formats. And the great thing about that is because that processing is getting handled by the internal FPGA, then that doesn't lock us out from other formats later. So as new formats come out, that's a software update rather than an expansion card or a bridge or something like that, where we can add formats later through simply software updates rather than having to change physical hardware. And that is 256 squared at 96K. It's 512 at 48K.
So if
so
I
you
understand you correctly, I mean, these are all features, but the benefit
Yeah.
would be is that one, you reduce latency, and two, the signal floor is much lower. So there's no noise in the system.
It is this. There's a great demo that I love to do when we have, when we're in front of customers. I'll take a ribbon mic, put it in the other room, gain it up 70 dB. You can hear the air conditioner running, but obviously there's no noise on the coil. It's really quiet. Then take that ribbon mic, unplug it, and plug an SM58 in, and you can actually hear the coil of the microphone. Because the conversion is so low noise, like you've never been able to get enough clean gain to actually hear the coil of a microphone, but you can hear it on our converters, and then you plug the ribbon mic back in and it's silent. So when we're talking about, low noise, clean conversion, this is, as good as it gets. So yeah, that's just one more advantage of this kind of really unique conversion technology. So yeah, like we talked about, these talk to each other over the loop. As you add more devices to the loop, it just creates a bigger and bigger matrix. So it essentially unifies all the devices into a single matrix as we add things. And then, like I said, the 16 has one expansion slot, the 32 has two expansion slots, and we'll be adding cards to this as Dennis, what's up?
What are the options presently for those option cards?
Right now we have BNC MADI. So that is 128 channels at all sample rates, but how you're going to use that is 128 redundant at 48 or 96K. At 192K, you don't get the redundancy, but yeah, that card has 8 streams on it.
Okay.
And then we will have
that it?
optical MADI. Well,
Okay.
we will have optical MADI soon, AOIP, which will be the same format selectable AOIP as the onboard, but with sample rate conversion. So that'll be, in the next 6 months or so soon. And then we'll be adding more stuff kind of as time goes on. But for right now, it's MADI and then AOIP, multi-format soon.
Now,
And then I don't know if it comes through in the, go ahead, Jan.
my question to you is, okay, so if I only need 24 channels, can I mix an 8 and a 16? Is it completely interchangeable? So if I wanted a rack, I could have an 8, a 16, and a 32, and they all mesh together, or two 32s or whatever. It's all interchangeable and all
Exactly.
seamlessly connects to one another.
Yeah, and because they're communicating with each other over the loop, it essentially functions as a single device. It's a single GUI. It shows up in the matrix and functions essentially as a single device. So as you add devices, the matrix just continues to get bigger. And, you have access to every input and every output on every device from every other device.
And the proprietary software, you have proprietary software, I assume. And also I noticed that you could also control it from an iPad. Is that possible?
So the other great thing about this is that the GUI is just a web-based GUI that's hosted on the hardware. So anything with a web browser, you type in the IP address, the GUI loads. There's no app to download. There's no Mac window version. It's just a website. You go to the website, You get full control over the entire system, and then you can have as many users logged in as you want. There are device groups and the ability to set up user rights management on a per user basis. So we can have admin users, view only users, users that only have access to routing on certain devices. So you can really kind of customize each individual login's control level and access level, which is another way to kind of manage, a system where everyone is connected. We want to be able to manage and make sure that, people aren't unpatching things that don't go to where that people aren't unpatching the wrong things, essentially. So there's a lot of control in there. What's up, Dennis? Just go ahead and
Chris?
shout out. Don't just yell at me.
No,
It's fine.
I'm sorry. That's beyond me to do that. So
All right.
okay, so so does that mean that all the DSP, so for EQ compressor or whatever is available, is inside the Axio box?
Okay. So there, as of right now, there is no. This is a routing system.
Okay.
So
okay.
yeah,
That was going to be my
Okay, I
question.
got
there's
it.
not
Okay.
Sounds
any
more like
onboard
sounds more like
DSP yet.
This sounds more
Fred, go ahead,
centralized.
Fred.
This sounds more like a centralized audio kind of a deal. You see ESPN, for example, Max this out. So they would put these on their stages, plug microphones into them, and then be able to route them anywhere into the building. And then
Correct.
via the 4 streams, you could send those to various mixing consoles, which I wish the other guy would have stayed on for a second because he said something about CalRec, which is what I get stuck with since I'm in the sports world.
Yeah.
So you could take these and basically using them as your front end and then convert it to Maddie or Dante or something, route it all to the CalRec on a single cable.
Mm-hmm.
But and then that's where you get all your processing, your dynamics, your EQ, whatever.
Exactly.
You get that on your own surface. This is just a router.
This is a console agnostic stage box routing system splitter.
So
Sorry.
for a music venue, they would put this on the stage, and then you
Mhm.
could run an output to monitors, you run an output to front of house, you can run an output to broadcast, and you still have another
Absolutely.
output to do something else with. But you're all sharing the same analog or AES inputs on this
Correct.
device.
But everybody has their own routing, their own gain control, and so it functions as a 4-way splitter from a single input with no actual analog splitter.
And what does the gain, how does it figure out the gain to make it, or it doesn't matter? It's if it comes in at neg 60, it's going to go out at neg 60. If it comes in at 0, it's going to go out at 0. So the metering on the front there to me was deceiving, because if I look at that metering, I would think, okay, you're trying to show me the signals that are all coming into the box. But if some of them are mic level and some of them are line level, those meters are going to be drastically level.
Yes.
Difference.
Yeah, and I think the meters go down to minus 80 on the front panel. But the so what we do is once we're converted and we're into the digital domain at mic level, that transmits through the entire system at mic level until it routes out to a console. So and I'll kind of walk you through this a little bit, how it works in the GUI and how we get in and control the device. But the way that it works is there's essentially a pickoff point where there's a little DSP that applies the gain and the high pass filter and the polarity for each console. And so as that mic level signal is traveling around the loop through all the devices, what we do is we say, okay, this MADI card is connected to a MADI console. And then every mic input that's routed out of that MADI card, the control data is then mapped to those inputs. So then that is one split, is that MADI card. And then we've got a Dante card in another device that's plugged into a Ravage console. And that is a different split with a different gain setting, and then there can be a 2110 connection to a Lavo console on a different device, or on the same device on an expansion card or whatever. And all of that mic level signal is then just picked off, the gain is applied, and it's sent out to whatever console it's associated with.
So, in other words, it eliminates gain sharing between various various consoles. So you could use different consoles. Like he could use a Gamble on one end and a Rivage on another end of the monitor world, or a Digico, and it doesn't matter because there would be no gain sharing issues.
Well,
Exactly.
actually, does it?
It's like a giant mic splitter. I'm getting,
Does it convert to analog at the other end? Could you break it out to analog, or is it only got to stay in a digital format?
That's a great question. So we actually have an installation at Caesars in Las Vegas, right? Actually, they're doing a show tomorrow. The Kelly Clarkson Las Vegas residency is a Stagetec system, a Nexus system, because that started last year, kind of before AXIO was done. But that system is really interesting because it is a basically, Kelly decided she wanted an analog front of house console, and so then they have to figure out how to do 120 input pop show on an analog console. So what we designed is a system using a Nexus frames where we bring in 120 mic inputs from the stage. There's a Quantum 7 at monitors that's connected via MADI on one split. There is a second split that goes out to front of house, and the 54 inputs that hit the XL4 are then D to A back at mic level. And then all the remaining inputs that go to a 326 submix console are sent MADI to that console. And so then the analog outputs, there's no gain applied, and you're using the preamp on the XL4. And then the MADI inputs that go to the submix console, they're either using digital trim or they're using the gain in Nexus to apply the gain there. But that is a truly hybrid analog digital system where we have an analog console at front of house, a digital console at monitors, no analog splitter, and we're still able to use the mic pre's on the analog console. And the other really unique thing about this is we're able to record that to Pro Tools directly off of the Nexus frame and then play back and do virtual sound check into the preamp on the XL4 instead of having to use the line input.
What is the device that decodes the digital and turns it back into analog at front of house?
It's just one of our D to A cards for the Nexus system. So we make a D to A analog card that has 135 decibels of dynamic range. So like if you want to put an RE20 50 feet away from a violin, you're probably going to have to put a couple dB on it. But for a big loud pop show, there's enough input there where we can transmit through the system and then D to A and still be well within the dynamic range of the D to A converter without increasing the noise floor.
What does that do to the latency when you convert it back to analog?
Throughput latency on that system is like 38 samples at 48K. So, 3/4 of a millisecond.
Will the analog conversion run at 96?
It will, yeah. Dennis.
Chris, just because I remember this from the Jan's birthday thing, and you could bring this back if I'm wrong, because I'm running on memory here. When we asked about the 96K, he said that Stagetechs believe that there's no reason to go to anything else than 48K because of how you feel about how you receive the microphone level. And so therefore, to go to 96K, you can supply 96K, but you don't believe that there's a reason to go to 96K. Is that still the case?
That is a person's opinion.
Okay.
I don't.
Okay,
That's not a company. That's not a company-wide edict, but
Okay.
we
That
now
was the
what I
gentleman.
can tell you,
Danny
Daniel,
said this, by
yes,
the way.
yes. And I don't necessarily disagree that when I'm listening to our stuff, I can't tell. There is not a measurable difference between 48 and 96K where there is with some other products, especially older stuff. There was definitely a time 10, 15 years ago where there was a pretty noticeable difference between 48 and 96K and a lot of stuff. I do not hear that as much with our stuff. The other thing is with a Nexus system specifically, you are having capacity at 96K. So there is a pretty substantial financial reason to maybe not do that because you need essentially twice as much routing capacity. So to be honest, if it were me, I wouldn't do it because I don't think that you can really hear the difference. But that depends on what you're interfacing with. So if you're feeding 96K to a PA amplifier, and if that device sounds different at 96K, then it's worth doing. So you're having to kind of look at it more holistically. But I do think that there is less difference between 48 and 96K with Stagetec than there is with most other products. I'll say that.
So is there an up conversion?
No, I mean, we can convert at 96K. The whole system can run at 96K. And
No,
we
I'm just
can
saying,
obviously,
if you take it if you have one of your 4 outputs that needs a 96K up, would it up convert?
oh, yes. So if the whole system is running at 96 or at 48 and we need to upsample a single output to 96, we can do that on Matty or Dante or any of the other formats that have sample rate conversion. But
That's fascinating.
Yeah, that is not necessarily the case with AXIO, where the entire system can run at 96K, and most of the I/O capacities are symmetrical across sample rates. Whereas with Nexus, that was not the case. Most of the capacities were halved at 96K. With AXIO, the expansion card is 128 channels at all sample rates. Even at 192K. So I don't know if you can see this in the photo.
Chris, I stopped you sharing because we were talking conversation, so I wanted people to see everybody's faces rather than just, because it was just frozen on the screen. So you can go back to sharing. All right. But while we're all in the room, does anybody have any questions so far that they want to ask Chris? Let's continue.
All right, great. I will do.
I want to compliment Denny and Chris right now, and Kurt. Great questions. Everybody's doing great. Proud to have you around.
I really appreciate the questions, guys. It makes all of this a lot easier when we can just kind of talk about this and talk about real world applications and just kind of chat through all this. Yeah.
I just have one quick question. Okay, so you can optionally take analog out at mic level. Is taking analog out at line level possible or not?
Yeah, I mean, whatever amount of gain, all you're doing is just not applying gain.
Yeah, exactly. So you
take the mic level
increase
output.
the digital gain and pump it out of the analog converter box without any problems.
Okay. Absolutely. So this just.
Let me ask you a simple question here regarding this. So Chris, in Christopher's situation, he's got a small PA, really small PA. He's basically a drummer and he provides his PA. Now, if he wanted to, he could get one of the 8 boxes, right? He can get the AXIO 8. What's the price point on that, MSRP or whatever?
Yeah, list price on an AXIO 8 is $11,999.
11. That's in English. What is that?
$12,000.
Okay, good. Okay.
Yeah, that's.
Well, while you're at it, could you give us the other prices as well, please?
Yeah, the AXIO 16 list price is $20,000, and the AXIO 32 list price is $33,000. And if we get to a slide here in a minute where I told you the wrong thing, I'll correct myself.
And hey, listen, just not that this is a paid political ad here, but
Yeah.
I'm going to work out a deal with this guy, so maybe I can give you guys a discount in the room, but I'm not promising anything. Just remember, everything you hear today is an opinion, so do your own research, and also remember to give us a thumbs up and a like. All right, now moving on.
Yeah, so this just kind of gives you a view of the back panel.
They're currently sold through distributors or
yeah, so we have right now Ken, Spectrum Sound is our US distributor, and then we have dealers kind of all over.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know an excellent sound company up in the Seattle area that would probably be a great dealer for you guys.
That'd be great. We'd love to chat.
Who are you talking about, Jan?
Yeah, so guys, this kind of gives you like an overview of the back panel. This is the part of the thing that we all care about, what I can plug into this. So the bottom left, number 1 and 2, those are those format selectable AOIP ports. So you can do that via copper or SFP fiber, and that can be Dante or 2110 or Ravenna or whatever, and that's 512 channels at 48K. Then the loop SFP, so that's how the devices communicate with each other. That's number 3. There are switched control ports, so we can plug in multiple devices. We can load the GUI on a computer, also plug in external control from another device, which I'll talk to you guys about in a minute. How we control the gain from another console is really kind of the secret sauce of this whole thing. Board clock in and out, you can see the expansion slots. It's got a bunch of plugs on it.
On your loop, just a question.
Yeah.
Is it dual fiber or single fiber?
It's dual. It's duplex LC fiber.
Duplex.
Yeah. Yeah. And then this is the Matty expansion card. So this is 128 channels, redundant at 96K. So we can feed a redundant source, and the card itself will manage switching between redundant sources. So if you have a dual engine console or you need to feed 2 record systems, the card can do redundant switching on the RX and the TX. Now, let's talk a little bit about the converter, just to give you guys an overview of like the difference in dynamic range on some inputs. Now, I've obscured the names of some other manufacturers here, but these are, mic pre, mic converter, dynamic range stats for, the other biggest consoles on the market. And 115 to 120 dB is pretty typical for most mic converters. The Nexus system is 158. The AXIO, which is brand new, is 164 dB. So what that's going to do, and the ability for us to kind of capture the full dynamic range of the transducer directly into conversion is really what sets us apart. And so then, like we talked about, separate gain, high pass filter, polarity, and limiter controls for all 4 outputs. Now, the thing that's cool is like the converter has a limiter in it that you can enable. So if you've ever watched a Formula One race, you've heard that limiter. So all audio for Formula One, all the mic conversion, everything is done on Stagetec. The reason that they use Stagetec is because our converter is the only thing with enough dynamic range for, to be able to use the track mics to capture birds chirping and then have a Formula One car drive over top of the microphone and not clip and not distort. So that's where that limiter comes in. And we have a lot of users that use that, especially for motorsport. So it's Formula One, MotoGP, that's all done on Stagetec. And then we can also bring in third-party control, which we'll talk about in a minute, how we can control this from another console. So we talked about splitters, and this is where it gets kind of crazy, is we've kind of looking at what happens when you're using an analog splitter. So what this graph shows, the top is, there's 4 different microphones that we've charted out here. The top is obviously if you plug directly in, you're going to get a flat frequency response. Now, if you take a industry standard digital console mic pre that has a 1.7 k ohm resistance, and you put 2 of those on either side of a passive split, this is what's going to happen to the frequency response. So that orange line is an SM57. You're down 6.5 dB at 16K. And that's just from the divided voltage and increased resistance of an analog splitter. That's not necessarily the converter's fault. That's just physics. You're dividing the voltage, you're increasing the resistance, you're negatively affecting the frequency response. So then when you think about putting, 2, 3, 4-way splitters, even with transformer isolator splitters, like the transformer still has a draw on the transducer and still increases the resistance, divides the voltage. So you're getting grounding isolation, but you're not really avoiding what's happening here in the frequency response. And we just kind of accepted that, like, if I want to take a microphone and plug it into 2 consoles, this is kind of the only way to do it, or we have to share gain. And, what we're saying is you don't have to do either. You can have the best of both worlds and everybody gets their own gain, and you don't have to pay this frequency response penalty for all of that. And, then looking at what that does to rack space. So let's say you had to do a big show. You had to do a 128 input show on 3 consoles, front of house broadcast monitors. You need splitters. Everybody wants to use a different desk. That's like 82 rack spaces in just IO and splitters, and a lot of money. We can do all of that with an extra split and a bunch more functionality and better sound quality in 16 rack spaces for like a third the cost. So when we're talking about efficiency in, and I mean, especially for touring acts, like, diesel's not getting any cheaper, and, floor seats are getting more expensive. So the less gear that we're carrying, the better the value proposition is. And so when we can shrink the size of the system down, that's good news for everybody. And so, this is what that looks like in practice. We can take 1 microphone in, digitally split it 4 ways, provide separate gain, polarity for 4 different consoles in different formats, and bring in control data. So AXIO is going to show up as a native I/O device in Yamaha, Ravage, and DM consoles. It's going to show up as a native I/O device in Lavo Home, and obviously with our consoles. And then anything else, you can control this with Ember Plus or OSC. So any console that can generate OSC commands, we can take that OSC data and map it directly to the gain on the split for that console. So you can have a knob on your console that affects the gain for your split, even if it's not a Stagetec console.
I'm gonna jump the gun really far, Chris.
Yeah.
Okay. Am I like, I see now that you have your StageNet control for the AXIO boxes out of the back of the AXIO boxes. Now, am I right in guessing that you could actually do that control from your Aventus desk?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
the patch, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So that's just, it's going to show up as a, it's just going to show up as a stage box on our console. But if you wanted to access the GUI for routing or for control for another device or for setup or whatever, that's accessible from any device on the network,
Including your desks.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
So, there's a GUI, there's a routing matrix, there's DSP control, there's customizable menus, there's everything that you need to control the device is available in the GUI. But the thing that is really interesting about this is how we manage the splits. So this is where kind of the secret sauce of this happens, is because, we want to be the console agnostic IO routing system so everybody can play nice and sandbox together. The way that we do that is by managing the control data and tying it to the routing. So what you're going to do is, like, let's say you have a MADI based console that uses OSC. You're going to go into this menu and you're going to say, I'm connected to this device and I'm connected to this MADI port, and that is an OSC based console and it's at this IP address. And then every microphone input that's routed out of that MADI port, then the incoming control data is mapped automatically to those microphone inputs. So if microphone 1 wants to be channel 1 on the console, then that maps. But if you change the routing so that mic input 1 is now routed to channel 9, all of that control data, our software maps that automatically. So you don't have to manage that. And it's as close as a OEM manufacturer stage box for that console as it can be, while, providing this level of functionality and not having to use a splitter. Yeah.
That's my actual next question. I know it's kind of dumb, but okay, that's quite a bit of money for a stage box. Is there? I mean, I'm kind of thinking about it, and I don't see a way around this. But is there a way to have a box that is just kind of like a classic stage box with less functionality that would be at a cheaper price point than this, or there's not much you can do to get around because you're getting all of this functionality and you really can't slice and dice here?
I mean, when we're looking at what's that, Dennis?
I was going to say, Chris, for your information, a same size stage box from SSL is just over 20,000 US. So when you look at what this stage box does for its price,
I'm thinking like an Allen and Heath, their stage boxes. Those have mic pre's. It's all, it's a classic, Dante's stage box. You just throw it up there, and it's
Yeah, and
like
I think,
3 or 4 grand. And
maybe there's a point where that kind of makes sense, and this is, kind of the first product in what will be a kind of long line of products. So, maybe there's a point where that does make sense, where we have something that is less functionality. But, when we're talking about, a larger system, especially when we're incorporating multiple consoles,
that's what separates. This is obviously
yeah,
super fantastic for complex things where you want a control surface for monitors, and you just split the mic and boom,
yeah.
everything is all done. Whereas for a really small installation, it might be hard to justify.
And we
it.
do have, we have a little, what's called a Nexus Compact. It's basically like the size of a Mac Mini, and that is a 8 in, 8 out, 8 AES, essentially little console. So it has summing and DSP and EQ dynamics, and it's all the same conversion technology as this, but in like a really, it is our most affordable, smallest format product, and
But
it's
it
kind of
doesn't
like
do the analog to digital like the next.
oh yeah,
it does.
yeah, it's exactly the same converter, same A to D conversion. It's the same EQ algorithm that's in our console. And it's, it's like this big, and
how much is can you give us the retail on that?
Retail on that is like 9,000 for list price on that. But I mean, it is actually like a mini console. So it has EQs and dynamic and busing and all of that in a really compact format.
Damn, Chris, you beat me to it. I was going to say, if you have to ask, you can't afford it. That's all I can say. But
You offer
What about clock?
the hardware for this? What would be like IO panels, multi-pin, quick disconnect, all that kind of stuff. Is that part of the product line, or are we on our own for that stuff?
For the AXIO stuff, because everything is all the front panel is XLR, we don't have anything right now. Now, we're talking to some other partners about offering, some products that would integrate with this to create, multi-pin, whether that be over Cat5 or other multi-core options. But because everything is XLR based, we don't have anything right now. Now, the Nexus system,
The analog,
because because that is totally modular and all card based, we have different connector types for all the cards. So like the mic in card comes with XLR or with D sub or with RJ45 breakout. And so then you can kind of customize what you need for that.
But the stage boxes and the multi-pin quick disconnect stuff would be critical for someone who's touring.
Yeah,
no one has
and I think that
all that
especially in
XLR
the touring applications, like that's, so many companies they use W1 or W2 or Sign or NC14 or whatever, and everybody kind of has their own flavor that they like. So, I mean, maybe we get down the road and we talk about that. We have something that we can offer that integrates with the product from a multi-pin perspective. Greg, you started to ask about clocking.
Yeah, I'm sorry I talked over you, Kurt.
That's all right.
I was just popping in. Yeah, because a lot of people have, especially with multiple consoles and integrating with different things, all it takes is a glitch and you got clock wars going on.
So there's a couple things that we do as far as word clock is concerned that are really unique. So our Nexus system and subsequently AXIO handles clock a little bit differently. So first of all, the clock is accurate to 10 ppm, the internal word clock. So it is PTP V2 Grandmaster level 10 ppm accuracy. So AES standard is 40 ppm. Like a Prism clock is like 25. Ours is 10. So it's incredibly accurate word clock. Every device has a two-stage PLL. The management of the clock is really unique. But the thing that is interesting about that is that we essentially oversample the word clock. So the word clock runs at 384 megahertz. So there's essentially, or 384 kilohertz. There's essentially 8 samples for every single sample. So the entire system can switch clock sources within a single sample.
Okay.
So if you fall over to whatever your backup clock source is, the entire system can reclock inaudibly within a single sample.
Okay. Well, taking your example of Caesars, okay.
Yeah.
Is the master clock the Nexus or AXIO at that point?
Yeah.
The master clock, and that's I mean, is that preferred? It be the master clock versus you see a lot of other people saying that, hey, I got a big Ben in a rack here, and that's the master clock.
Yeah, and I mean, we can certainly take word clock input and distribute it and get the same functionality because of the way that the switching works and the PLLs in the clock system. But our clock is really, really good. And, I would, if it were me, I would let the Nexus or the AXIO system be the clock master and then have everything else clocked to it, because it is essentially the hub of the whole audio system.
And does that exist in the entire ring? So let's say you have 10 boxes going down, and if box 3, whatever matters, somebody drives a forklift into it, whatever. Is the clock interrupted in that ring?
No, because the loop is bidirectional.
Right.
and redundant.
Right.
If a device was to go offline, then obviously the signal just goes the other way.
Right.
Essentially goes the other way. But
okay.
All right. So
Yeah.
your clock could knock the other clock right out. Boom, right out. Clock it right off.
But
Okay.
I guess your point is that you would prefer the routing system, which is what you're describing, AXIOs and
yeah,
to be the master clock.
that's what I would do. And I mean, we're totally aware of the situations where, that's not the case. Or, when we're in a large 2110 implementation and we need to clock to an external grandmaster for whatever reason, that's,
And a
that
lot
works
of
too.
broadcast time, they want to control the clock.
Exactly.
Go ahead, Denny.
Exactly.
Well, actually, I was going to ask about the clock. Can somebody, is there a clock out available at different, like for example, if somebody is on an Avid S6L and he has stuff at his front of house which he wants the clock to declock, will the clock show up at his front of house for him to lock everything in, that he has and clock it to your clock?
Yeah. There's a word clock output on every device. And then every output, whether that be whatever format that is, if it's Matty or Dante or whatever, could also be the clock source for a third-party device.
I might add that this is a this is a very timely conversation.
Remember what we joked about?
Michael,
we got a bunch of questions. Michael Fraley has asked a question. Kurt's got a question. You were worried, Chris, there wouldn't be any questions. You were wrong. There you go. Also, I got one more thing to say before we go on. Ken Porter is traveling to London. He will be calling us from Heathrow momentarily. I just got a text.
Great.
So there you go. He didn't want you to feel alone.
Oh, good.
All right, Mike, go ahead. Go.
How many devices can that thing handle clockwise before it gets too bogged down?
As far as outputs are concerned?
Yes.
I mean, there's you can have up to 10 devices on the network. Each one has its own output, its own dedicated word clock output, and then every digital output could also be a clock source. So that's all the AES outputs as well as Matty and AOIP. So I don't know, a couple hundred.
Oh, wow. Okay.
If you were to take every digital output and make it the clock source for another device, it would be a couple hundred devices.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you said that you can interface with the DAW and record at mic level. Does that take the place of one of the outputs that would be dedicated to a console, or is it a separate connection? And does it just show up as an interface on your DAW audio devices tab?
So if you're doing, if you want to actually record at mic level, the best way to do that currently is through 32-bit Dante. So because Matty is going to be a 24-bit format natively, the best way to transmit 32-bit to a record platform is via 32-bit Dante. So we've done a lot of testing with 32-bit Dante into Pro Tools and recording at 32-bit, and had a lot of success with being able to take that mic level signal, record it directly to Pro Tools, and play it back. And then you can also use a single DAW to virtual sound check to all of the connected consoles. So we can take that one set of playback and play it back to all the splits simultaneously.
So you need to configure one of the output ports, the optional ones, to be Dante, and then you need a Dante input to your DAW.
Yeah. Or if you're just capturing and you're not going to do virtual sound check, or you're just doing, you just want to capture, I only want to play back to one console, then you could take your already gained up output, send that to Pro Tools, and route it back in. And isolate it to, I just want to record front of house, and that's all I'm going to use it for. But if you want to record and play back to multiple consoles at the same time, then you need to record each individual console's gain settings. So that's where we're recording at 32-bit and then playing back before everybody applies their gain.
Now, it might be a silly question, but with the low gain and the low noise specs, is there any specification or consideration for a specific type of microphone cable that you're using to feed the device in the first place?
No, not necessarily. I mean, I think that, you know, I can't say that I've noticed a difference. And I mean, we're, you know, converting well beyond the signal to noise ratio of basically every microphone on the market. So I don't know that there's anything specific as far as cabling is concerned.
So you wouldn't necessarily want to spec Star Quad or something.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at.
I mean, better
Really
cable is
less.
going to make it sound. I mean, that's the thing, is at the end of the day, like a better isolated, lower noise cable is just going to make the end product better. So I do want to
You have to start sharing again if you want to. You have to start sharing one more time. Okay, just
I want to show you guys one more thing here where we can look at.
But we're also not going to get in the trap of the 80s, right? Where you're going to go buy monster cables. You know, every cable's going to cost $300 for 30 feet.
Oxygen free, and it's non-bidirectional.
Yeah,
those
the electrons only go one
cost
way.
an arm and a leg.
So what this diagram kind of shows you is what a system like this could look like, where we have multiple consoles from different manufacturers connected to the same set of I/O in different formats with different control protocols, and with the expansion ports and every device having its own onboard AOIP port, there's still I/O left over to bring in all of your wireless over Dante or Matty, and then do playback and record and virtual sound check and have all of the I/O for the whole system live under one roof. So there is a kind of single routing and control system. And then the console ends up being the edge device rather than the console being the hub, if that makes sense. So it's just a totally different way of kind of approaching how we take a microphone and get it to all the places that it needs to go for any application. Yes.
It's kind of another crazy question here, but you know, we have amp modelers. So what now, are we going to have mic pre-modelers or and the question is, what techniques or are people using, given the fact that there's no mic pre? Are they just really happy with the flat response that they're getting and they like it better without one, or what's the kind of thought there?
I'll tell you from my experience. And like, you know, I mean, like, I'm a mixer. That's been my entire career, is mixing front of house. And, you know, I think it was really easy to kind of like, oh, these mic pre's sound great or these mic pre's sound great. And that is all true. But I think what I've realized in using Stagetec stuff and really approaching that from a completely different angle is that one mic pre can sound awesome. 100 of the same mic pre's can be too much of a good thing, if that makes any sense. Because you're taking the tonality of that microphone preamp, and then you're multiplying that times however many inputs you have. And what I've found in using this is that I don't EQ as much as I used to. I don't use as much compression as I used to. I don't process things as intensely because I'm not compensating for the cumulative factor of having 50, 75, 100 mic converters that all have the exact same tonal signature. When it doesn't have a tonal signature, then I'm in control of what has color and what doesn't. And from a creative aspect as a mixer, that is a really powerful thing to be able to say, I get to apply this color wherever I want. And when I don't want it, I don't have to have it. and I'm not compensating for it.
So were you
Yes.
using these products on tour, or did you start?
No, this was
enjoying
a
them?
post-touring thing for me. So
Yeah.
I wish I had it when I was touring.
Yeah.
But in doing shows since then and using this stuff at shows, that's been my overwhelming experience.
Well, doesn't it eventually have to hit whatever console mic pre you're using?
No, because this, the Axio or the Nexus system is the mic pre for your console. So we're coming into ours.
Yeah, no, but I asked earlier, so you can
Yeah.
even step up the digital gain and
Oh, I
get
see.
your output
You get your gain,
online and
you
then
can get your gain
insert
straight
it.
from the stage box. You don't have
Yes,
Exactly.
yes.
I get it.
And then you're coming into your console at whatever format is native to that console, whether that be Matty or Dante or whatever.
So do you make any products that go the other direction, where you're taking multiple consoles with multiple formats and trunking them down to fiber or something to get them to the stage for drive? Do you do this the other direction?
Yeah, because I mean, essentially it is a routing system. So we can also, like, let's say in this example, the front of house console is a PM10, then outputs from that would come back through that same Dante stream into into an Axio, go through, be accessible from anywhere else on the system, and then we could take a separate Dante output and feed that to the PA or AES3 to a system processor or whatever. Because again, like, every output is accessible, every input and every output is available everywhere. Then you can use this to not only bring inputs into the console, but take outputs back out and send them wherever you need them.
Is there any plan to go?
So
with
Kurt, were you
it
thinking
on?
along the lines of like a festival setting where there's like maybe 10 different boards or
Well, I mean, even
an
3 or
award
4.
show?
I do it all the time, where one guy wants to drive analog, one guy wants to drive AES
Yeah.
50, like Midas, one guy wants to drive regular AES.
Yeah.
So, if
So
the same
I'll
box
tell you
in
this.
both directions, that would be very interesting.
There is, as far as there is enough, there's a lot more DSP in this device than we're currently taking advantage of. I'll say that.
Any
So
plans for Milan?
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
yes.
Oh, good. Really? Oh, wow.
Yeah. As soon as we can get it done. But yes, the plan is to, as soon as possible, be able to offer ABB Milan.
Okay, so
Yes.
just quickly, if you were to
Yeah.
just supposing you were to have Milan, you would take the Ethernet port out of, let's say, the box on stage, run that into a Milan capable switch, and then run that to an array which listens to Milan.
Yeah. And if you're doing, Milan if you're feeding Milan into a Milan native system, you wouldn't even necessarily
basically
need the
we're
switch.
talking about Meyer, so Galileo
Yeah.
and
You could take
so forth.
Once we have Milan implemented, or if it's Dante or 2110 or any other AOIP format, you could take that Dante stream straight off the back of the box directly into wherever you're going. Like, you don't even necessarily have to have a switch. Because that stream is 512 channels, you can take, the entire capacity of the loop directly into whatever the device is.
Is there any reason that the signal that you're going to be sending potentially down Milan would have to come from the console itself, rather than, like in my case, I've got Galaxies at front of house, and so I drive the Galaxy with the console, and then I'd use the Galaxy to drive Milan. Is that something that would be doable with this box?
Yeah, I mean, and like, whatever format you need to get into the Galaxy in, whether that's analog or AES or
Milan.
whatever format, like, you could go directly into the Galaxy that way and then have it output Milan to the PA.
And the Milan would take the place of one of those expansion ports back, theoretically?
Yes, theoretically. Yeah. Ken Porter. Oh, go ahead, Denny. I'm sorry.
No problem.
Actually, Michael also has a question. Michael is being very
I'm
polite.
sorry, yeah.
He's raising his hand. Michael, just jump right in. Forget about
Yeah.
raising hands. You know.
Well, no, I mean everybody was stepping on everybody for a while. And I'm like, I'm not going to add to that chaos.
Oh, I love the chaos. Come on, that's the whole idea. Chaos, you know. But it's controlled chaos. I swear, it's controlled chaos.
Sir, I doubt the veracity of your statement right now.
That's why everything here is an opinion. Do your own research.
Exactly right. So the first question I have, and this is from just so many shows, blah 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 blah. What's the failure rate on this? Like, because obviously, if this system goes down, you're screwed.
Well, I
you're
think
done.
you joined a little bit after
Doug Armstrong was in the room.
Doug Armstrong was on the room
from Touring Video.
Yeah, but he's had a Nexus system for 10 or 12 years now, and said it was the most bulletproof, reliable product he's ever used. So, from a standpoint of reliability, like we've had the Nexus system at ESPN has been installed almost 20 years and has essentially never been serviced and hasn't been turned off.
Okay.
So, I mean, these products are incredibly reliable.
In other words, it's way more reliable than Dante. Gotcha.
Yes. I will say that with confidence. Yes.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Then the second thing I have is there a limit to how many I mean, for example, the Sphere comes to mind.
Mm-hmm.
It's a god awful lot of outputs. Is there a limit on outputs that you could do with this?
With AXIO,
or is your limit how much money you got?
With AXIO, the loop capacity is limited to 512 channels. With a Nexus system, the maximum number of outputs is 65,535.
Damn, and I need 635. I needed 36. Damn, I'm short. I don't know what to do.
Yeah. So that's there's essentially no limit to a Nexus system as far as capacity is concerned.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Of course.
Danny,
you have your hand up?
I earlier you talked about the fact that there's a limiter inside that we could switch on at the AXIO box or in the Nexus box. So are these very transparent? Are they known to be transparent? Are they look ahead limiters? I mean, how
it does not. The converter limiter is not a look ahead limiter.
Okay.
The console limiter actually has a pre-delay function that essentially functions as a look ahead, which is really interesting. That's a totally different conversation, but it is very transparent and sounds, honestly, I couldn't believe how usable that limiter is for it being essentially built into the converter. Now, there are limited applications where you necessarily want to use that, especially at the converter, because you're basically limiting. It's not variable. There's no controls for it. It is just a brick wall limiter at like minus 0.1 dBFS.
Okay.
It's just keeping you from hitting digital zero on a 24-bit signal.
Beautiful. Okay, that was question number one. Second question is, and now I'm jumping the gun way ahead again, just because I'm not sure if we're going to talk about anything else in Axios. So you were saying about the fact that this preamp is, very natural, no color, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So my question is, do Avantis consoles have some form of coloring parameter? Like, for example, on the S6L, there's the heat, you can go tube-like or you can go tape-like. Is there some form of something similar to this?
Not built into the console, no.
Okay.
No.
So in other words, so if I get this, that means that if you want color, you got to choose it with your microphone or your choice of DI or something like that. So you got to get your color at the front end.
Or, through an insert.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Okay, of course.
You can jump out to a Neve, Denny.
Yeah.
Okay.
You
Or
know,
just use a
jump out
gamble
to an
thing.
MD.
That'll sound great.
Yeah, that's actually an interesting. So if you turn on phantom power to a port, put a DI box on it, what are you generally seeing for signal levels coming in and your conversion of that signal?
I mean, that's going to depend, kind of greatly on what DI you're using, what the input's like. But in my experience, in most use cases for regular show inputs where you're not doing something weird and esoteric, you're going to get it functions like a normal mic pre. So like you're going to be applying a similar amount of gain as you would with a standard mic pre. So if you plug a 58 in and you're doing on a vocal and you're used to putting 30 dB on it, your experience as a user of interacting with it is going to be really similar to a standard analog mic pre.
Sorry, how does it do? How does the input stage do DC blocking when phantom power's on?
That's a great question. I don't know that I know the answer to that, Wayne. I mean,
Good one, Wayne.
meaning what? Ask that
Oh
another
my
way. Let me
God,
see
if we
I
were
can-
in a Monty Python movie, you'd be thrown off the bridge. Unbelievable.
So
That's it.
I go ahead, Wayne. I'm sorry.
No, you're right. Yeah, carry on. Yeah, I was just interested
Um,
because it's all digital gain, but somewhere along the line you've got to stop that voltage getting into the digital gain. Well, there's not digital gain. The digital, I mean the converter.
Into the converter.
Converter.
Yeah. So there is.
There's
I'm
another
not gonna.
problem in
I'm not gonna
broadcast
say anything because I do not know the exact technical answer to this question. So I will find out and I will let you know.
Do you have any?
I wonder if Ken Porter knows that answer. I mean, he is in the London VIP airport room. We were able to see that for a while.
I'm in the Atlantic Lounge, and no, I'm not sure I know that answer either.
That's something
Yeah,
we run
that's,
into in broadcast every once in a while. Somebody will take a comm line, an RTS 32 volts,
Mhm.
or a clear comm at 30 volts, and plug it into a mic input. Is that going to survive?
Yes, and I mean, the isolation on the mic input is pretty amazing, and like I have been told that basically you can't blow it up. Like if you were to plug it into the wall, it would not blow the card up. That is what I was told. I've obviously never tested that. I like my job. I'd like to keep it, but that's what I was told by the Germans that are a lot smarter than I am.
You showed us amplitude response. Do you have any information on the phase response of the circuit, and does it change when you apply gain?
The answer to the second question is no, it does not. Because it is purely digital gain, you are just, increasing the value digitally rather than there being an analog circuit applying the gain. I do not have any like phase response graphs or anything for the converter itself. I did not come prepared for this level of technical questions. I should have showed up with some more charts.
Lots of nerds in the room.
Yeah, I love this. This is
Well,
great.
yeah, lots of, I mean, hey, I'm comparing, Axios is compared to like the Roadrunner compared to Wile E. Coyote. No matter what Wile E. Coyote, the Roadrunner's still there,
I would like to ask one from my level of expertise. In other words, if I have a 7-Eleven Big Gulp cup and I shoot out to 10,000 strings to 10,000 other cups, can I apply that gain digitally? It's a distributed system question.
It depends on fluidic resistance.
There you go.
It's a giant Unity game device. So I would say the answer to your question is yes.
Okay.
Yes, but you need a flux capacitor.
No, it seems like this is, just a testament to German engineering. It's just amazing,
I want to see how the thing does on one of Greg's rocket launch gigs.
That's what I was saying earlier when you talk about the
Formula One's nothing compared to that.
Yeah, I was saying Greg. Said Greg should be really interested in this for rocket launch applications.
Yep. Yep. We burned up quite a few cards over the years.
Well, we'll have to talk because that's
actually what's nice about what I like about this for that particular application. We were using fiber Matty, and we reached the limit of what Matty can do because you have a microphone field around a launch pad, okay, at various differences, but your control surface is several miles away from your stage boxes. So even with fiber Matty, we reached the limit of it. So where we had the hop boxes, and just to go ahead and so that we can cheat physics, so to say.
Yeah. Well, and for the Nexus system, we have a whole plethora of SFP options for like ultra long range transmission stuff. So we have a lot of.
Well, if you're doing F1, that makes sense because I mean, if you're doing some of the very larger tracks, especially the newer ones that you can't go to now, like Bahrain and Qatar, those are tremendous distances.
Well, and those are mixed in England.
Really?
Yeah. So like the Singapore race is still mixed in England.
Wow.
So we provide stage boxes, and then they transport all that signal for every track in the world back to their broadcast facility.
And now they're Kuala Lumpur in a month or so.
Yeah.
Because Bahrain's going to be in Kuala Lumpur. So.
Well, Fred would be, consistent with that. He's familiar with that because when he was doing the Olympics, where were you, in New Jersey or Connecticut or something like that?
Connecticut.
Yeah.
But that was all done with what were the remote consoles you were using, Fred?
I don't know what they were using.
Well, what console? Oh, that's right.
We had Calrex are all in Stanford.
Right.
I'm surprised you remember anything, Fred, but the drone noise. I'm sorry, I figured that was the only thing you could remember from that show.
But if I remember correctly from I forget the name of the guy who has a YouTube channel that does a deep dive and everything. They talk
Dave
about
Dave Levine, Dave Rat?
No, Mike. I think it's Mike D from NBC.
Dallas Taylor. Yeah, Dallas Taylor did that, and they were talking about Calrac has a head, like it was kind of like a mini stage box, a controllable mini stage box where they plugged in a studio, but the actual control surface was back at Stanford. That was an all Calrac product.
It's called the RP1.
Yeah. Okay. So.
Well, it seems you've got a really excellent product here, and also the application seems to be unlimited. It seems like award shows. This is designed for award shows where they have so many inputs going in, or maybe a major sporting event like the Super Bowl or halftime at the. halftime at the Olympics, or halftime at one of the major events, as if it was the World Cup or whatever, when they had so many different artists performing,
Don't forget festivals. That would be pretty good for festivals, because now you can just hand off to any console they bring in, and they don't even have to run their snake and crap.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The only thing I can't see it used for is home use here at my house because I have no use for it. But other than that, you know. But Denny, you have another question? Go ahead.
Well, actually, it was not a question. I just wanted to let you guys know that Mr. Scoville got one of those compact boxes to test out. So next time we see Mr. Scoville, he should be able to give us his review of the compact. I'm sure he's going to do analog in, because I believe that box can do analog ins and AES ins, right, Chris?
Correct. It does 8 analog in, 8 line out, and 8 AES, and then there's a 64 channel Dante port.
Mm-hmm.
When you say line out, what do you mean by that?
It's the same. It's actually the same D to A card that's in the Nexus system. So that's our same.
So you have balanced outs coming out of it.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to move the conversation a little bit right now to Ken Porter because I know that he's in Atlanta, but I know that you, Chris, you let it be known that Ken is the main distributor of Stagetec. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Did I understand that to be correct? Mr. Distributor there in Atlanta, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Is there anything you want to add?
Call my office, order stuff. Bye.
Bye. Hey, we want to see what it looks like in the executive lounge over at the first class airport lounge. You know, some of us are not fortunate enough to travel that way.
Delta One lounge here is just the regular Delta One lounge, and I'm stuck in the corner to kind of be quiet.
Oh,
who's your dealer in Houston area?
Right. Let's see.
Could it be Michael Frawley? Could it be Michael Frawley? Because Michael Frawley happens to be there at this moment in time.
Well, we'll have to. I don't know that we don't have a dealer right now in the Houston area specifically, so we'll have to talk about that.
Very good. So, Chris, is there any more of the presentation that you want to go, or should we just open the room now?
That covers everything that I, kind of wanted to show you guys. So, like, if anybody else has any questions or things we want to talk about, but that kind of gets you through
There is one thing I would love to see, if it's possible for you to see us, is a demonstration of the matrix on so that we could actually see it in action. I know you had some charts about what it looked like, but is there a way that you could show us something so that we could see it in action?
Let me see what I can do. Give me 1 second. It's actually in the other room, so I think I can get into it from here.
Or do you have any pictures of your desk?
Of our console?
Correct.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me see if I can get the GUI up here.
And do you guys offer training on this?
Oh yeah.
I mean, it doesn't seem like it would be too intensive, but still I know plenty of people that would look at it and go, huh?
It seems very intuitive. I mean, it seems extremely intuitive and bulletproof, actually, it seems.
And so these are not new products that you're showing us.
The AXIO is a brand new product.
Okay.
Yeah, this is it is brand new.
So what did that guy that was on here before and had it for 20 years, what does he have?
That is
Nexus.
So let's see here.
Is that a legacy product, or is this
that is our kind of like big matrix routing system. So that's the one that I was talking about that has 65,000 inputs and outputs.
Yeah, that's your original D show.
Yeah,
correct. That's kind of like our kind of main first product. So let me show you guys the GUI here.
By the way, just so we're clear on that, Nexus is not a legacy product. Nexus is still very active in the broadcast industry, if I'm correct.
Yeah, that's correct. In broadcast and a lot of theater applications and stuff, like any sort of large distributed matrix system. And we still sell a lot of that stuff. There's 6,000 Nexus systems globally. All right, so this is the StageNet GUI. So this is our control software and management. Right now, I only have one device connected, so you can't really see how the loop works. But this is going to give you a full XY matrix of all the I/O on the device, and I'm connected over a VPN, so it's going to be sketchy because it's in the other room. I don't know what's going. My VPN keeps kicking off intermittently. But
VPNs are not reliable. I don't care how,
No,
you know,
Oh,
and the
it's great when
speed
I need to,
always
like-
slows it down. It slows the
Yeah.
system down
it's great
tremendously.
when I need to like log in and manage something remotely, but this is not the best for a demonstration.
VPNs are
so
slow because they're encrypting, but OpenVPN is insanely solid.
well, that's what we're using. So hopefully it stays that way. So what this is going to show you is just all of the local I/O on this particular device that we're connected to. And then as we add devices, all of their I/O shows up in this drop-down menu where we can say, I want to select what device I want to route to, and then what I/O type I want to route to. So we can have all of this grouped by type or ungrouped in a just kind of never-ending scrollable
Matrix.
GUI. So then we can say, okay, well, I only want to look at analog inputs and I want to route those to the expansion card. And we can route these individually or by selecting up at the top and one-to-one route to the whole thing and say, actually, I want to do this. And then set those routes. And then what that's going to do is just give you kind of an overall view of all the I/O on the system. And you can see how basically everything is routable to everything. And then because that matrix can get really big, there's a bunch of ways to filter this. So we can filter it by I/O type. We can do tags. So tag specific types of I/Os or a specific card in a, there goes my VPN again. In a specific way, or we can keyword search. So as you type in names or labels to I/O, you can type in a keyword here and it will filter based on what you type in. So if you're looking for bass, you type in bass, it's going to automatically search and filter based on input and output labels. Then
Can you build this offline, like an offline editor, and then load it?
you will be able to soon. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Right now, yeah.
How do you manage the split as far as, so that was all 1-to-1, but what if you, can you double assign in that matrix?
Yes. So what you're going to do is in the matrix, you're routing to the preamps. So virtual preamps is how we manage the control for the splits. So how that's defined is in this console connection menu. So what you're going to do here is you're going to say, okay, I have a MADI-based console, and it is OSC controlled. And what it's going to do is you're going to type in the IP address of that console, and then it's going to give you at the bottom here all of the OSC commands so that you can type those into whatever device you're using, whether that's your console or a Stream Deck or literally anything that can generate OSC commands. And then what it will do is take everything that you route to that MADI port, and it will show up as a controllable OSC device. So when you're in here, and this is, sorry, guys.
So there's a lot of drag and drop as well. It's just it's more of drag and drop as well.
And the whole GUI is really designed to be very touch friendly, big buttons, easy to read, and to make it as easy when you're on a show, you're moving quickly, to touch things with your fingers and not have to like really intricate small buttons and things like that.
Is there a show mode so that you can lock yourself out of the ability to screw yourself up by hitting the wrong button?
Yes. And there are, so that's this access parameters, that's where we would go in and edit basically what users are able to access which parameters, and can we unroute things, and how do we manage and control who can do what and when. So your preamps get routed out to the MADI port. And what's going to happen in the way that we manage this is you're going to patch your console 1-to-1. And then you're going to, do your scramble patching in StageNet. And that's how we manage mapping the control data. So in order for our software to know where to route things and how to map the control data coming from your console, you're going to route your console 1-to-1. You're going to patch your input list in our software. And then that's how it knows what channel is going out, what output to your console, and how to then ingest the control data and map it to the appropriate mic input. So we can go in here, and this is how we can, I really like this feature. This is very cool. So we can go in here and say, okay, I've got 16 mic inputs. I want to label all 16 mic inputs.
Yes.
And so I want to go mic inputs, select all, and I want to call them analog in, and I want to start with 1. And I can hit apply, and it will auto apply numbers for everything that I have selected with a selected start number. So actually, let's say this is actually unit 2, and it's starting on channel 17, then I can go in here and say, well, actually, I want to start at channel 17, apply. And it makes labeling stuff really quickly when you're doing kind of path-based labels and you're not typing in the whole input list.
How do you handle, I mean, let's say you're doing a 3-band show, and the patching is obviously going to be different between the 3 bands. How do you set that up to, I mean, is it seamless? Does it pop when you need, I mean, what do you do there?
So there is a full filing and snapshot system as well. So we can recall routing presets, and then so program all of that on a per band basis, and then recall those parameters. And that switching happens within a single sample inaudibly. So for example, like we did some testing with some playback engineers about a year ago with a Nexus system where we brought 2 playback computers, redundant playback computers, into a Dante card, and then I set up a logic trigger to switch between the 2 computers. So in the event that one computer failed, we have a fallover to the redundant computer. And what we were able to do is I set it up on a Stream Deck button where I could press the button and switch between the 2 computers. And I was like, all right, you listen and tell me if you can hear when it switches. And so we pressed play and we were listening, and he goes, all right, tell me when you switched it. And I was like, turn around. And I was just sitting there with the button as fast as I could switch it back and forth, and he couldn't hear it. So when I tell you that the routing switching and it is inaudible, you can't hear it. It happens within a single sample.
But back to the cross patch. So you're saying that you can't cross patch in here, or you can?
Yeah. Oh no, absolutely. Yeah.
And how do you double assign something? Well, what if I want it to go 2 places? I want the same input to go to 2 different places.
You can route
not
that
2 different
input
consoles,
out,
but like 2 different channels in the same console.
So you would like, let's say you're feeding it this way, and then you would go, I want to take this input and I want to route it out all of these outputs. And then I want to route it out this expansion port too. And you can route 1 microphone input out 1,000 outputs if you want.
And save all this stuff in the snapshot.
Yeah. And then save all of this, recall it, protect it, back it up to a USB drive, take it somewhere else. Yeah. So the filing and recall system is going to function basically like any console or other piece of hardware.
So for festival or touring or, one-offs, you would still have to have a pretty nice and elaborate stage box analog distribution system that you could, pre-patch, pre-label, all that kind of stuff.
Yes. So like if you're talking about like Subsnake boxes for a festival. Now the thing that's interesting about this is that you would not necessarily, this VPN is not happy with me being on Zoom as well. So what you could do is, because you have the routing flexibility, you would not necessarily have to deal with scramble patching. You're not repatching the split between bands, because all the routing can be recalled within StageNet. You could have Subsnake 1 is 1 through 16 and Subsnake 2 is 17 through 32, and then all of your per band patching can happen obviously in StageNet and then be saved and recalled. And it really doesn't matter what inputs the inputs go into, because we can label, recall, all of that within the software.
So that gets us away from having to use multiple stage boxes and move the output between them like we've all been doing for decades.
Exactly. Yeah.
So economically, it actually could replace three conventional splits, which would make it much more cost competitive than having 3 or 4 RAM latches or whirlwinds or something and having to move the output.
Yeah, you're not having to try to make a W4 in the middle of the show, which is scary.
That's why I use a RAM latch.
Now, how do you save this data? Exactly. Do you save it on a memory stick? Does it save it to a hard drive? How do you back up your work?
You're going to back it up to through the GUI. So to whatever computer you're connected to, via USB or to the local hard drive or whatever. But the filing system operates through the GUI. So there's not a USB port on the device. You're connected to it via the interface, and then you're going to download the file from the unit that way.
Is there any reason why you'd want to have a dedicated laptop or something that's just addressing the split rather than something that's also doing smart and running your Galaxy and all that on it?
No, because it's just a website. There's basically no processing power to run it. All it's doing is viewing the website that's hosted on the hardware. So it's really, really processor efficient. So it's not a big drag on the computer.
Okay.
Hey, Chris.
And I'm assuming it's Windows based, or is it both?
It's just a website. So you can access it from anything that has a web browser.
Hey, Chris.
Yes.
But with that processing power, you could run Pro Tools on it and be able to archive all the tracks through it on top of controlling the inputs, all the boxes.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is like, because it is so it's not requiring anything of the computer that you're running it on. You could run it on a machine that's doing just about anything else. I mean, if you would, check the score of a game on the computer, that's essentially the amount of processing power that we're talking about here.
Except in a VPN, right?
Yeah, except when you're trying to VPN into something that's across the hall in another room.
Wow, this is like the Veggie-matic of our industry, man. It slices, it dices, it chops. It's,
Denise, go ahead.
Actually, it's a question both to Chris and to Mr. Porter. I know that you guys right now are handling Canada as well, but is Stagetec looking for somebody just in Canada, by the way? I'm just curious about this.
I mean, yes.
Well, I think you might have somebody coming out of retirement. I'm not saying who.
No, that's not. No, I don't have the wallet for that. But I know. I actually pretty much know all of the distributors, and there's one in particular that I'm thinking about now. And I'm saying this, but maybe Ken feels differently. That maybe Ken feels, well, I'd rather keep Canada within the North American deal, but I just don't know if I'm, being a bad boy to Ken Porter right now by asking this question.
Well, I will tell you this, Denny. Seeing we're now almost 2 hours in, only the diehards are listening right now. Everybody else is going wherever they want to be.
I know, but
what happens if you don't have internet access where you are?
Oh, it doesn't require the internet.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah,
HTML.
as long as you're on the LAN, as long as you're on the same LAN in the same IP subnet, it's accessible without the internet.
Okay, so there is software you put on your computer so that it can go, oh yeah, I see that, I can do this.
No, Michael, it's like I've got a Whirlwind distro that's literally just has a little web host in the power meter. You just go into the network switch, you launch your browser, and you just type in the web address, and you're not really on the web, but it seems like you're on the web.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. All right.
Yeah, well, everything generates its own IP address, or a MAC address, so that you could access it and it doesn't interface with others. And I'm sure this is the same as well. So
yes,
I also have some questions, Chris, because you've only spoken about Axios, but you've got a whole console line as well. You want to mention anything about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Our Avados console is that's our flagship console. I think it's interesting about that is still built on the Nexus platform. So that console lives within the routing system of a Nexus frame and is has access to all the IO that's available in an entire Nexus system. So it's really unique in the amount of IO that it can access. And then the other thing that is really unique about it is that it can, because it's again part of the Nexus system, it is incredibly low latency, meaning that throughput latency through the entire console, analog to analog, is 35 samples.
Okay. Now on that console, by the way, just an FYI, if I was really, computer savvy, I'd be able to say right up there in the corner, you can click on that link and you could go to show 207, where Daniel Schindler went into the Avos console in a big way. So you could also see that as well. But I will, at the end of this video on YouTube, there will be a link that you can just click on and go watch that show as well. I'll make sure I put that up there.
Does the console
that would be great.
Delay integration?
It's show 207, by the way, May 7th.
Does the console have delay compensation?
It does not have automatic delay compensation, no. So this is, I'll show you guys. So another thing that's kind of unique about Avados is that the DSP and the control surface function totally separately. So we can have either the largest DSP core and the smallest surface, or the biggest surface and the smallest DSP core. It doesn't matter. Those kind of things are interchangeable. But the console comes in, the control surface comes in 34 different formats, from 12 faders up to 96 faders. And then let me get over here where I can show you guys. So when you're looking at it, the console DSP lives in the Nexus Star router. So this router frame at the bottom right-hand corner here has a bunch of IO cards in it for other devices. And then that right-hand side is the controller card and the DSP cards that house all the channel DSP. Maxed out, it's about 800 input channels. And then obviously your output buses come out of that number. So as you add buses, you lose input channels. Denny.
Did I have a brain fart here, or this console does not work with the new Axios?
Oh no, it does. It does.
Okay, sorry.
No, of course it does. Sorry. I'm sorry if that wasn't clear. It's the way that AXIO interfaces with this is over 2110. So it's, as far as you're concerned, it shows up as a native device. You just plug it in, but what's happening in the back end is a 2110 connection between the AXIO and the Star router.
Okay, but okay, so there's something that I'm missing here. So the Axios box does not have the console's DSP for
No,
processing. So that means that if you have an Avantis, you do need a Nexus box which has all the console's DSP in it, right?
yeah, this box on the screen here at the bottom right-hand corner. So
Okay,
that's basically the brain for the console.
okay. And
Um,
and so this lives at the front of house, but this could live on the stage as well, right?
yeah, and so then the connection between the console and the DSP brain is just a redundant Ethernet connection. So that can be over fiber or copper, and carries all the control data, all the screen data, as well as the local I/O for the headphones and the monitor outputs and the talkback mic and all that.
So let's just say that we're trying to minimize the space up at the front of house. Sorry,
Mhm.
Chris, give me a couple of
Oh, no,
seconds
no,
here.
go,
Chris.
go.
Okay, so can we have the Nexus box on stage just to try to minimize the space at the front of house? So the Nexus box is on stage. Can I have a Axios box at the front of house so that I could do inserts and maybe do the D feedback boxes? Or you
Mhm.
understand what I'm saying? Like, so can I have
Yeah.
the Axios for that at the front of house, and then the stage Axios on stage, and the Nexus Avantis DSP on stage as well?
Yeah, the only difference is it's going to be two different. You'll
Yeah.
need like a fiber connection for the console and a fiber connection for the Axio.
Okay.
So you could do
I
all
get
that on an Opticon quad
Okay.
and cover all of that.
Okay.
Chris.
Thank you.
So this
Hey, Chris,
kind of looks
course.
this kind of looks like the same architecture that DLive has, where it's a control surface, but the actual mixing is occurring elsewhere.
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
And so along that
Chris?
line, if the console gets disconnected or somebody runs over the fiber with a forklift, will it still pass audio at the stage box?
Oh yeah. Yeah. And the other thing about this, because of the DSP architecture of this too, like it is passing audio in about 2 seconds from when you plug it into the wall. Because it's not an FPGA based DSP architecture and there's not a computer that has to boot, it's pulling audio in directly off the backplane of the router. So from power up, it's passing audio in 2 or 3 seconds. Now, the control surface will have to boot, but the audio processing boots immediately.
Hey, Chris.
What's the library like?
Yes.
Do you have the schematic of what you did for Kelly? Wouldn't that be what you need to go?
Yes, I'll find that and bring it up. Sorry, somebody else asked a question. I missed that.
Yeah, what's the library like?
Library, what
In other words, can you store let's say I create, a bunch of channels ahead of time and store them in a library so that I can pull them in later.
Yes.
How big of a library do you have?
I'm unaware of a limitation. I'll say that.
Can you custom configure colors and the way things are laid out?
So fader layout is totally customizable. There's 16 layers per 12 fader bucket. But one of the things that's interesting about the way that we manage the control surface is everything is color coded by type.
Yeah, you dropped it there, so I didn't hear the answer. But there's a
sorry. Everything is
doesn't let
everything's color coded by type. So
it's like digit in that sense.
Input faders, groups, sums, all of that is color coded by type, and then the same in the channel processing. So when the encoder bank at the top, so when we're looking at this encoder bank, those are all color coded, and so when it's EQ, it's green. When it's pan, it's orange. When it's dynamics, it's blue, and it creates a way for you to like really kind of quickly know what you're looking at. And because those encoders are remapped 1,000 different ways, it really kind of creates an environment where you're not constantly having to like look down at the console.
Well, but can I make my drums all green and my bass purple and my vocals blue and my
No.
returns orange?
They'll all be input channels, so unfortunately they will all be green.
Yeah, y'all are going to need to change that.
Yeah, I hate that so much with Digico.
Yep.
That's like almost why I don't use my Digicos.
Chris, so
Yes.
let's say you're in EQ mode. So I know
Mm-hmm.
that the pots are actual dual pots, right? So in other
Yeah, it's a
words,
concentric.
it's a concentric. So what happens if you're so you've got gain and frequency as the two. What happens
Mhm.
if you need to get to the Q? What do you do there?
You press down on the button on the top.
And then it becomes the third
Yeah.
third thing. So
Yeah.
every pot it could be actually be three things.
Yes. So
Okay.
it's a top, a bottom, and a button all in
Okay.
one.
And
Can you
when
touch the screen?
Yes.
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 Yeah. And so then all the screens are touch screens as well. So the lower screen kind of shows your channel strip, and then the upper screen shows metering, bus routing, all of that stuff. So
No, I meant if you're trying to, adjust your cue, your bell, all that kind of stuff.
oh yeah.
Instead of touching the
Yeah.
button,
So
you
that
touch the screen as well.
yes. So this screen
Awesome.
here, actually, I'll just bring it up here. I've got the offline editor here, and we can just kind of look at it. So let's say we're looking at the EQ and we want to adjust this. We can this circle around it. So rather than it being multi-touch and you having to pinch, this gray circle functions as a rotary where you can touch and spin around to adjust the cue. And when they're right on top of each other like this, it actually makes it a lot easier to interact with, where you're not trying to pinch and then accidentally grab the wrong thing. So we can do this, and then we can grab on this rotary and drag around to adjust the cue. But yeah, it's
That's
all
cute.
also controllable from the screen. So when we're looking at the channel view, the console has every channel has a 10-band EQ. So that's 4-band parametric, high and low shelf, high and low cut, and 2 notches on every channel. And then there are separate limiter, compressor, expander, and de-esser circuits on every channel. So you're not having to pick 2 or anything like that. It has all of them all the time.
What? No auto tune?
No auto tune. No. Kurt.
Are there ports to support external screens, and is there anything that you would be able to move to permanently leave on an external screen? And does it support external plugins? Third-party plugins.
It does not. Okay, let me start at the beginning. It does not have a on the surface external screen, but it has we have 2 ways to control it separately. So to have things on an additional screen, we have much like the AXIO, there is a web GUI that is hosted on the hardware, which you can log into from anywhere and create custom layouts and fader layouts and panels for that. And then we can also access the full GUI through the offline editor as well. And that you don't even have to have a Surface connected to use that, either of those functions. But as far as an external overview screen, there is not one native to the Surface. Now, I'll say that.
As a controller?
Hold on. I missed all that. Start over.
Can you use oh, sorry, Ken.
See you, Ken.
Bye, Ken. Have a safe flight.
Have a great week.
Thanks.
Can you use the offline editor in an online mode and have it as an additional handle that you can
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
And the other thing is that with all of our products, every parameter is accessible via OSC or Ember Plus. So any external controller, whether it be a Stream Deck or anything else that you want to use as an external controller for the console, all of that functionality is open and can be mapped to whatever other external controller you want to use. Denny.
Are all the processors, so the limiter, the compressor, and the expander and the EQ, are they switchable in order?
right here.
There you go. Okay.
So,
and the other,
and this is all drag and drop.
Yeah,
We can reorder per the channel. And like, let's say we want to take the side chain and we want to feed the limiter with the side chain. We can drag and move that. We can move pickoff points for all of the different outputs of the channel. So this is all configurable on a per channel basis. Yes.
Okay. Panorama. Is that just, I'm assuming it's stereo in 5.1. Could it do anything else?
It does. We do up to 714.
Okay, 714. Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Great.
Fred had a question.
Let's say you get a channel set up with your dynamics and whatever. Is there a copy paste function so you can drag it across multiple faders? And I saw there was a copy button there, but I wasn't sure about a paste. And but if in yours, can you select certain places, or is it a full channel copy paste?
So if we go to the copy menu, basically we're going to select what we want to copy and then where we want to copy it to.
That's what I was looking for, the copy menu. Okay.
So I want to copy everything but the pan and the compressor, and I want to copy it to all of these channels.
Right. Okay. That was my question, because I can do that like Alrec. I wasn't sure about that on this.
So this is a really unique feature that I want to show you guys. So channel library. I'm sure that there's something else that does this, but I'm unaware of what it is. So what this is the ability to do essentially user presets of groups of channels. So like, let's say my drums are on channels 1 through 10. I've got a house drum kit. I've got 2 drummers. I don't have the ability to do snapshots between those 2 things. What we can do is say, I want to store channels 1 up to 10 as a new preset. And that's drummer 1. And then I'm going to move some stuff around and change my parameters. And now I need to say, okay, now I've got my preset for drummer 2, new content, that's drummer 2. Now I can recall all 10 of these channels at the same time back to where they were, or copy them as a whole chunk of channels to somewhere else on the console. So I can take one and say, actually, well, I only want to recall the faders from preset 1 and then paste them back where they were. Or I can say, actually, I need to add a tom and I want it to be on channel 5. So I can go, I want to copy everything back over to 1, 2, 3, 4, skip 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, paste, and then reorder the channels that way. So you can use this to create like huge chunks of channel presets of as many channels as you want, and then save and recall and paste those and say, actually, I want to export this as a file that I want to load into another project. So I want to take the whole band, all 60 inputs of the band, save it as a preset and load it into another project.
Can you do anything like that with dynamic control? Like, for instance, having multiple different preset levels for threshold on a gate or something like that to switch between the velocity that the drummer's playing that particular song on?
You mean like as in something else would trigger that?
Internet cut out.
You mean as in something else would trigger that? Explain that a little further.
Like, can you create a button, a recallable button that would allow you to swap back and forth between, say, for instance, noise gate threshold without having to have a snapshot every time you want to go to that different noise gate threshold?
Yes, because we could basically assign the threshold value to anything that can generate OSC. So we can assign a button that says set the gate threshold on channel 12 to -40, and then assign another button that says set the gate threshold channel on channel 12 to -20.
But that'd
and
be
then toggle between those.
Like a Stream Deck or something?
Yeah. That'd be the easiest way, or through touch OSC or any other external control that can generate OSC commands.
Okay, so will this console run plugins, third-party plugins like Waves or UA or any of that stuff?
So it does not run anything natively on the console, but what we can do is it's obviously going to show up as an insert as it is on anything else. But one of the unique things about this is when we're looking at the surface, so each screen on the surface is its own individual Linux node, its own little computer. So one of the advantages of that is there's no single point of failure in the surface. So each screen is connected to a redundant network switches that connect to the controller card. Now, one of the advantages of that is that each screen can be its own remote desktop connection. So when we're talking about integrating with Super Rack, we can do snapshot recall and file load and save via ProLink to Super Rack. And then we can remote desktop on any screen on the console and bring up Super Rack directly on the screen. So it is as close as you can get to running Waves on the console without the unreliability of Waves having to touch the console. And then you're doing an MGB to MADI or however else you want to get in and out, the audio in and out of the system.
And same thing for the DAW, Chris?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like when I'm working on this, like I will take and like on the Avatos S, like I'll put Waves over here on this screen and I'll put Pro Tools over here on this screen, and I can have, if you're doing Clang or you're doing something else, like you can load different applications on different screens and then really quickly toggle in and out of those. So like, okay, I need to see my meter bridge, turn Waves off, or I can take that meter bridge screen and move it down to the lower screen for a second, move it back. It's really flexible in bringing in other applications and hosting it on the surface without it having to touch the audio DSP portion of the console.
So if you're using the E, because I'm assuming that you're going to want the screen to be in the console mode, but let's just say that you're tweaking an effect. You could decide one of the screen to be going to your VS3 or your Super Rack, do some mods on there, and then get back into the console mode.
Exactly. And it's just a button. When you're looking at it, it is this button. Oh, I'm looking for it. It's not, because this isn't the actual console, the button's not there, but there's a button right here that says EXT, external screen or external control. And then you would just toggle that button on and off, and that would flip you between the remote desktop connection and the control.
Great. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, of course. So as far as routing is concerned, this is very similar to how the AXIO GUI is set up. So you have access to all of the IO. So like, for example, this is just the IO associated with our demo system. So this is about 9 Nexus-based devices. And this will scroll. It's about 8,000 inputs is what this system's looking at right now. And then we can obviously sort that however we want, and then route that, say, okay, I want to route this base device to console input A, and I want to go 1-to-1 set. And then you can customize all of these menus too. So we can create custom groups of IO that show up in this menu. So then you can say, I want to sort this by this IO type, or I want to sort it by these boxes, and filter all of that, and then really quickly route whole chunks of things with a single button press.
So I see local as a source, are there actual physical local I/O on the surface itself?
There are 2 headphone outputs, a stereo monitor output, and a talkback input. That's what's on the surface itself. And then that is still that is all transmitted over the same redundant Ethernet connection to the DSP core.
So to do an analog insert, you'd need a little mini Axios box out front, like Demi
Yeah.
was talking about.
Or a Nexus based device or something like that.
Or the
To have
compact.
local IO. Yeah. Yeah. So, and that's what, so this is what the Nexus-based devices look like. They're card-based systems that are 1, 3, 6, 9 RU, and then they can be loaded up with whatever cards you want. So we have all of these types of cards. And then another thing that is unique to this system is every device, every Nexus-based device, the console DSP, each also house 256 programmable logic circuits. So we can do basically any sort of control that you can think of via the onboard logic. So that's route switching, that's changing the sample rate, turning on the sample rate converter, triggering a GPIO to turn on the coffee maker, whatever you can think of. Like, we can do incredibly complex logic control systems. So I'll tell you this. So the German parliament in Berlin 15 years ago or so were looking for a new security system. So they hired a bunch of consultants. They tried out everything on the market. It will not surprise you that they were dissatisfied with the products that were available on the market. Did not meet the specifications that they wanted. And the audio guys said, hey, we have this thing. We think you should try it out. So they brought some Nexus-based devices that only have GPIO cards in them and designed a logic system that won the bid for the security system for German parliament. So they have a Nexus system there that only has GPIO. There's no audio cards in it. It only has GPIO cards, and it uses the onboard logic and contact closures for the security system for all of German parliament. And that is how fast and reliable that logic system is. So, and versatile in everything that you can do with it.
Yeah, so now we can hack it.
Well, and that's the other thing, is this is all, everything in a Nexus system is baseband. So the communication between all the devices is TDM based, so it is unhackable. There's nothing to hack. There's no computer in this. There's no IP. All the IP functionality is at the edge. So we have a Dante card. We have a 2110 card. We're ingesting at 2110 and then transmitting through the system through our proprietary baseband protocol. So it is unhackable.
Oh, that's very cool. Excellent architecture, I have to say.
Yeah. And then, Kurt, to answer your question, there is a whole other metering application that exists outside of this. So there is a totally customizable metering application where we can do 16 pages of up to 96 meters that are customizable and recallable. And those can be triggered via logics. So, for example, like we have we have customers that'll use it where they'll put a computer at the RF station, and then they'll build a logic that says, if any of the inputs in this range go below -90, send me an error message and bring that meter page up onto the screen, meaning somebody turned their pack off. Or if any of these inputs clip, send me an error message and bring that meter up on the screen and engage the hold and show me the channel that clipped. And so with the combination of the logic and the customizable metering application, we can, you can have not only an external overview meter screen, but a dynamically controlled meter screen that shows you what you need to see when you need to see it. I want to see, before we get out of here, I do want to see if I can show you.
What is this bad boy running?
You mean price-wise?
Yes. Yes. What is the S running?
So an Avado system, like a 36 fader surface with maxed out DSP, is gonna be under 250,000.
Okay. And
so you're gonna be, PM10.
I've heard of it, but I've never seen it on the road. I've never heard of anybody speccing it. So who has it out, and why does nobody seem to know about this or use it?
Well, that's why I'm here. That's what they hired me for.
It's a European-based product, first of all.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, that's the answer. Is this is a European-based company. That's been the majority of our customers are in Europe, the Middle East, Asia, and I'll just be honest with you. Like, we did a poor job of understanding and addressing the unique needs of the U.S. market. And now we have a team that is based here. We're in Nashville. We have an office here. We have a US-based team of Americans that are, bringing these products to the US market in a way that we need to interact with them. So, I mean,
I also might add, Chris, is that you were really designed for the broadcast industry at first than anything else. And that's why my friend Doug Armstrong from Touring Video was so familiar with your product for so many years.
Yeah, and there's a couple systems here in the US. Doug has a couple consoles. The Guthrie Theater in Minneapolis has a couple consoles. JP Morgan in New York, we just put 2 consoles in their new building at 270 Park Avenue. And so it's growing, but I mean, to be honest with you, that's why we're here, and that's why we're doing this, is to, address the unique needs of the US market with people who live here and work in this business.
And also now you've got Ken Porter involved, which is also going to now expand it. And I believe that Ken has a couple of consoles as well.
Chris. Oh, you're muted.
When would be the next occasion that we could, hear this or see it or touch it in the US?
So we'll be at, I'm trying to think, we just kind of wrapped the 2 big trade shows. We'll be at AES in Nashville in October, November, whenever that is. And then, we do all the major trade shows. So Infocom, NAB, AES, all of those. And then, if there's a specific application or if you're ever in Nashville, come by the office and we'll hang out. You can be love to give you guys, a kind of once over through the whole thing. So Ken did ask me to show you this.
Yes,
Chris, go ahead. Yeah.
LPS. You guys should do LPS.
So we did go to LPS last year and I did a panel there. So we'll have to, I'm not sure if we're doing it again this year, but we were there last year.
With a console?
Not with a console, no, just with nobody had a console there. It was interesting. There weren't any other console manufacturers there.
That kind of blows me away. It's like, you want to get in front of guys that tour all day, every day. That's the bloody place to do it. And yeah,
I know. And I think they really try to tailor that show to not be as salesy, I think. So we were also surprised that there weren't, it's less like a traditional trade show, but we had a great time there. Met a bunch of great people and really enjoyed hanging out with everybody. But nobody brought a console, which was interesting.
Very focused on networking opportunities.
Exactly, which was great.
Not the kind of networking we're talking about here.
No.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ken did ask me to show you all this, so you take a look at this. I know this looks like nonsense, but this is a block diagram of the Kelly Clarkson system that's in Las Vegas right now. So we put this together last spring. We started that in June of last year. So this is in the center here, these are the 128 mic inputs and the routing matrix, star router. There is redundant MADI connections to the Q7, as well as Pro Tools for them. And then there is an additional redundant analog output to SD racks. Now, the reason that we did that is they were unsure if, because this would fundamentally sound so different, there was concern over the sonic difference, although arguably better, maybe not what the artist wanted to hear in in-ears. So as a backup, we provided a full analog mic level output to the SD racks. And then the monitor engineer had it set up where he could toggle back and forth between the two. Now, we didn't end up using the SD racks, but they were there. And then there are two smaller Nexus-based devices at front of house that do analog distribution to the XL4, MADI distribution to the submix console, as well as Pro Tools recording, system drive, all the effects inserts, and then analog inserts for all the outboard stuff for the XL4. And all of this, this is one of the hardest things I've ever done, fellas. Getting this thing.
What, this meeting?
No, this designing and building this system, and making this thing do, being able to do a modern pop show, and with all the functionality of that, and integrating all analog outboard, old school hardware effects, and an analog console, and having all of that controllable snapshot recall from a single button was tough.
What I really like about what I really like about this is there's no need for that $250,000 console. In other words, you can have like the Nexus as your hub, and then you just go out to whatever you use. So our friend here, Kurt, is a gamble guy. He can go into there, go to his gamble, but then he can go to whatever console the monitor engineer is using, to whatever other console the FOH guy is using. This is like a perfect hub to do all of that.
Yeah, exactly. And we have a couple other tours who are using analog consoles that will be integrating Stagetec into their next tour. And I can't tell you what those are right now, but like we have a couple other systems that'll be going out on the road in this exact scenario: digital monitor console, analog front of house console, and with Stagetec kind of as the hub for all of that.
Wayne Pauley, Lee Bryce.
I know Wayne really well. Known Wayne a long time.
Yeah, me too.
Well, Chris, I want to thank you so much.
Yeah, fellas, this was great.
I want to thank you so much. I appreciate you. This has been a deep dive into Stagetec. I mean, 2.5 hours have gone by like it was just a minute, and you've done great. I didn't even see you take one drink, not even one drink to
I finished
your
my
palate.
whole water bottle.
Oh, there you go. Well, you did it very, very secretively. I love that. I also want to point out to those people that had bets on Kalshi that the German Parliament would be mentioned, or that Chris would be stumped more than one time, or mention of J.P. Morgan. You all lost. You all lost the Kalshi bet. So that's pretty amazing, right there.
I had a bet one person would have a propeller coming out of their head.
Yeah, well, there you go. Thank you, Christopher Coos, for that. Anyway, in closing, is there anything that you want to say before we go off the air?
Thank you guys for having me. This was great. I had a great time chatting with you all.
Very good.
And hopefully we can do it again soon.
One last question. Why does Kelly have so many analog inputs? What is going on?
She wanted an analog console, and so we made it happen. It's a really unique show where they're doing no tracks, and every input is live. And so there's 5 guitar players and 2 drummers and a horn section and 4 background vocals and a string section. And so they said, we want to do the entire thing analog. There's no click, there's no tracks, and it's a very, very cool show. So if you get a chance to see it, you should do that.
Yeah, she's at the Coliseum, is that correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, Coliseum is a wonderful room. If you've never seen a show, the acoustics in that room are more than amazing.
Yeah,
I believe that Solatech has that huge Meyer box on the ceiling. I forgot what it is. That huge speaker system that they have. Maybe Kurt remembers it.
System in there now.
Constellation?
No,
it's a Leo system in there now.
Oh, they have Leo.
Yeah. But they have a speaker in the top of the room. It's one of their proprietary boxes that is a very, it's designed to give a wide display. I can't remember the name of it offhand.
Soundbeam.
What?
Soundbeam.
Oh, yeah, the Soundbeam. They had
That's
sound beams in there when Celine was in there.
Yeah.
Oh, is that what it was?
They have the sound beams on gyros so that if an audience member gets disruptive, they just.
Well, anyway, thank you so much.
Yeah,
we really appreciate you being here. The deep dive was amazing. We got so many questions. You could use this video in your presentation anywhere you want. You could tell people about it. It's online right now on YouTube and all of the other social media platforms that we participate with. Thanks, guys, for coming. Remember, everything you heard today was an opinion. Even the facts are opinions these days. So we'll keep it that way. And I want to thank everybody. And Chris, I hope this works, but I want to give you a round of applause. There you go. Look at that. This is analog, by the way, analog.
Oh, nice.
So Jan, I just have I have a big problem between last week and this week. My issue is apparently I was born 50 years too early. And when I redo it, I need to pay more attention in science and physics class.
That's for sure. Hey, we're all carbon-based, so what can I tell you? Yeah. Listen, everybody, we're going to stay in the room, but we're going to say goodbye to everybody online. If you're still with us, remember to give us a thumbs up. I will put a link right there in the corner somewhere so you could watch this show 207 about the consoles. Share this with your friends, and remember, you make it happen. We'll see you next week. Oh, by the way, before I say that, we got Tom there coming up. And I believe August, the second week in August. And then we have Coda Speaker Systems coming up in September. So we've got more straight from the source, deep dive coming for you so you can get your questions ready and have them answered by the experts. Chris, you did an amazing job. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you guys for all the questions and sharing. Ken Porter from coming in from Atlanta. I was hoping it was from England so we can have even a wider audience, but we were all over the world today, Thailand, Australia, and Canada, and that. So what can we say? Even Nashville. We had somebody from Nashville. Unbelievable. So remember, you make it happen. Have a great week, everybody. And